I moved into my new apartment in Tempe, Arizona, last spring. It was peaceful, cheap, and close to my new remote job. I was 26, single, and the complex was filled with retirees and quiet types. I thought I'd lucked out. No noisy neighbors, no screaming kids, no drama. My next door neighbor was an elderly man named Mr. Talbot. He was soft-spoken, pale, and always wore a faded cardigan, even in the heat. He introduced himself the first day I moved in. But what creeped me out wasn't the handshake. It was what he knew. "You're Michael, 26, from Boise. Tech guy?" he said with a crooked smile. I blinked. "Yeah, how'd you know that?" He chuckled. "I always asked the leasing office about the new folks. Just being neighborly." It felt off, but I shrugged it off. I had bigger things to worry about, like starting my new job and unpacking boxes. That night, I noticed something odd. My blinds were half open. I always shut them completely, especially when undressing. I figured I had done it absent-mindedly in the rush of moving. The next morning, there was a knock on my door. Mr. Talbot held a muffin tin. "Bake these. Thought you could use a sugar boost," he said. "Thanks," I said, taking them with a forced smile. As I closed the door, I noticed something else. The key hook by the door, where I always placed my car keys, was empty. I found the keys later in my backpack, zipped into a pocket I never used. I brushed it off again. Maybe I was just tired. That weekend, I was up late gaming when my lights flickered. Just once. Then again. I assumed it was electrical. Then I heard it. 3 soft knocks. Not on my door. On the living room window. I froze. My unit was on the second floor. I peeked through the blinds. No one. The next day, I told the complex manager about the flickering lights and weird knocking. She promised to send maintenance, but mentioned something else. "Talbot says you've been up late making noise. Just keep it down, okay?" I didn't reply. I barely made a sound after 10 p.m. But I started watching Mr. Talbot more closely. He always seemed to be outside his door whenever I came or went. And every time, he'd smile, wave, and say something oddly specific. "Late grocery run last night, huh? Hope you got eggs. You forgot them Tuesday." I never told him I went to the store, or that I'd run out of eggs. I never even passed his window. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke up gasping, not from a dream, but from cold air brushing against my face. My bedroom window was cracked open. I never opened it. I bolted up, scanned the room. Nothing. The door was locked. The window wasn't broken. The next day, I bought a camera. A cheap little webcam I could hide on a shelf, pointed at my bed, just for peace of mind. That night, I hit record before sleeping. In the morning, I hesitated before watching the footage. But eventually, I sat down, coffee in hand, and hit play. The first 4 hours were uneventful. Then, at 2:41 a.m., movement. I watched as my bedroom door slowly creaked open. I paused the video. My blood ran cold. I never heard it open. I resumed play. A figure entered the room. Thin, slow, hunched. It was Mr. Talbot. He stood at the foot of my bed for 27 minutes, just watching, occasionally tilting his head like a curious bird. At one point, he moved to my nightstand. He opened the drawer, took nothing, and walked back to the door. Before leaving, he leaned forward and whispered something. I replayed that part again and again, turning up the volume. I couldn't make out all of it, but I heard, "Just making sure you're safe." I wanted to throw up. I called the police. They came, took a report, watched the footage. But here's the thing. They found no signs of forced entry. The locks weren't tampered. Nothing was stolen. And Talbot denied everything. He claimed he slept all night, had no idea what I was talking about. I demanded the complex install new locks. They agreed, but only changed the knob, not the deadbolt. I didn't feel safer, so I installed my own camera in the living room, one in the hallway and one by the window. I even placed a broomstick to jam the sliding window shut. I didn't sleep much after that. For nights later, it happened again, but this time, there was no entry from the door. Instead, the bedroom footage showed him already standing in the corner. When I turned off the lights, he had entered before I got home. He stood in that corner for 2 hours before slowly walking to my bed. This time, he leaned in closer, and I could hear his whisper clearly. "You sleep too loud." I called the police again. This time, I showed them footage from both cameras. Still no forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing stolen. One officer asked, "Could this be staged? Are you sure it's not a prank?" I lost it. I screamed at them to do something, anything. They said they'd speak to him again. The complex refused to evict him without hard evidence of danger. Just being creepy wasn't enough. So I bought a chain lock, a door jamb bar, and a new camera that live streamed to my phone. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I slept on the couch with the lights on, but I still heard noises, soft creaks, breathing. One night, I saw his face on my camera, just inches from the lens, staring directly into it. The stream cut out seconds later. The next day, the camera was gone. I hadn't left the apartment. It was taken while I was home. That was the breaking point. I called in sick, packed my essentials, and went to a hotel. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. At 2 a.m. that night, I got a call from my landlord. "There's been an incident," she said. "You need to come back." I didn't want to, but I did. My front door was wide open. Police tape across the hallway. My neighbor's door, Talbot's, was missing. The wood had been broken in. Scratches lined the inside like claw marks. And inside, they found dozens of photographs of me, sleeping, showering, eating. Some were taken from inside my apartment. Some were taken from behind my mirror. The back panel was missing. He had made a peephole through the shared wall and replaced the mirror while I was at work. They found a small trapdoor under his sink leading to the shared crawl space between units. That's how he got in, avoiding doors, cameras, everything. The police arrested him, but he barely spoke. When asked why, he only said he needed watching. He left the eggs out. He's in a psychiatric hospital now. No trial. Declared unfit. I moved out. Left Arizona. Changed my name. But sometimes, I still wake up at 2:41 a.m. And I swear, I can feel someone staring. I found a listing on Craigslist. A second-floor apartment in a quiet complex near Flagstaff, Arizona. Fully furnished, below market rate, utilities included. The ad warned, soundproof unit. Please be respectful of the neighbor below. I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone worked nights and needed quiet. The landlord was in a rush to lease it. "You'll love it," she said. "Quiet, cozy, good neighbors. Just Don't stomp around. The guy below is sensitive. I moved in that weekend. It was clean, modest, perfect for a fresh start after a breakup. The only weird thing was the silence. Not just peaceful quiet, unnaturally quiet. I couldn't hear traffic, voices, or even my own footsteps clearly. It was like the air was thicker inside. The neighbor below, Mr. Fowler, was in his 50s. I met him when I was bringing up a box. He opened his door and just stared. Thin, pale, stiff. His eyes were too wide, his head slightly tilted like he was studying me. "Hi," I said. "Just moved in upstairs." He didn't blink. "I know." Then he closed the door. That night, I dropped my phone by accident. Just a soft thud. 10 seconds later, knock, knock, knock. At my door. It was Mr. Fowler. "You dropped something," he said flatly. Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to make noise." His face didn't move. "Don't drop things. It upsets them." Before I could respond, he walked away. Them? The next day, I played a podcast while cooking. Not loud, just low background chatter. 15 minutes in, the audio cut out. I checked my phone. Everything seemed fine, but there was no sound. I rebooted. Nothing. Put on music. No audio. Then I noticed my TV speakers weren't working either. I turned everything off. Suddenly, the silence felt suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat in my head. And then there was tapping. Not on the door. On the walls. Like knuckles rapping gently. I put my ear to the drywall. Tap. 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 From inside. I asked the landlord the next day if someone was doing construction. She frowned. "No one's reported anything. But I'll ask." I didn't hear back from her. That night, I tested the sound again. I clapped. Snapped. Dropped a book. Nothing echoed. I placed my Bluetooth speaker on the floor and played a loop of dog barks. Just to see what would happen. Within 30 seconds, bang, bang, bang on the floor below. Then silence. Then the barks started echoing back. But I had already turned the speaker off. I stood frozen, staring at the powered-down device. The barking continued, distorted, looping, like someone was mimicking it through the vents. I unplugged everything and sat in silence, breathing heavy. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I heard it again. Whispers, muffled and low, like a TV in another room. Except I didn't have one running. I pressed my ear to the floor. Beneath me, crying. Soft, childlike sobbing. I went downstairs and knocked on Mr. Fowler's door. He didn't answer, but I heard him talking on the other side. Not to me, to someone else. No, he doesn't know yet. He's still too loud. I stepped back, my pulse racing. The next morning, there was an envelope on my doormat. Inside, a photo of me sleeping, taken from above. From the ceiling? On the back, written in shaky handwriting. "Please be quieter. They don't like attention." I rushed to the leasing office, but it was locked. A handwritten sign read, "Closed indefinitely. Call this number." I called it. No answer. No voicemail. I tried to report it to the police. They told me to contact building management and suggested a wellness check on Mr. Fowler if I was concerned. I knocked again that night. He opened the door slowly. Just a crack. "They're angry with you," he said. "You're too noisy. You're disrupting things." I had enough. "Look, man, I don't know what the hell is going on, but stop leaving pictures. Stop knocking. Just leave me alone." He blinked slowly. "You don't hear them, do you?" I stared at him. "Hear what?" He opened the door wider. His apartment was completely dark. No furniture. No lights. Just a mattress on the floor. The walls were covered in soundproof foam and dozens of scribbled messages, written directly onto the wall in red ink. Some were crossed out, others repeated over and over. They hear through the light. No sound, no sound, no sound. They came after the humming. I backed away. He slammed the door. That night, my bedroom light wouldn't turn off. I flicked the switch. Nothing. Unplugged it, still glowing. Dim. Humming. The same hum from the Bluetooth speaker. Then, the tapping returned. But this time, from the ceiling above me. I was on the top floor. I didn't sleep. I left all the lights on. But every bulb flickered with that soft hum. I laid in bed, heart racing, until I saw it. A shape in the corner. Tall. Thin. Flickering like static. Not human. I blinked. Gone. But the hum got louder. The next morning, I packed. Called friends. Looked for hotels. But when I opened my door, there was a man in a suit standing in the hallway. He wasn't from the building. No badge. No name tag. "Good morning, Mr. West," he said. I never gave him my name. He handed me an envelope. "You violated the terms of silence. Your lease is terminated. Please vacate immediately." I looked inside. It wasn't a legal notice. It was another photo. This time, not of me. It was of something tall and spindly standing behind me. In my bedroom. The photo was taken from the corner of the ceiling. There was a symbol at the bottom of the picture. A spiral. Sharp. I looked up to ask him questions, but he was already gone. I grabbed my keys, bag, laptop, and ran. I checked into a motel 20 minutes away. I didn't sleep, just sat and stared at the wall, trying to rationalize. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe stress. Maybe a prank. Then my phone buzzed. No caller ID. A voicemail. I played it. Static. Then a voice I didn't recognize. Hoarse. Shaky. "You left the light on." We followed the hum. I threw the phone into the trash and left the motel. Drove 3 hours to a friend's house in Nevada. I didn't tell him much, just that I had a bad neighbor. I slept there for 2 days. When I returned to the apartment to collect the rest of my stuff, the door was open. Police tape across the hallway. A neighbor told me they found Mr. Fowler dead in his unit. No signs of trauma. No forced entry. The only thing odd, his mouth had been sewn shut. They called it suicide. They didn't find any of the photos, or the messages, or the spiral. The unit was sealed. My lease terminated. I moved states. Months passed. I changed my number, my email, everything. Then, last week, I stayed in a hotel for a conference. Nice place. Clean. But when I turned on the bedside lamp, I heard a low hum. And then, my phone lit up. Unknown number. One message. Too loud. I've lived in Ohio all my life, mostly in quiet suburbs where everyone keeps to themselves. So when I bought a small house in a sleepy cul-de-sac near Dayton, I expected peace. A starter home for me and my dog. Max quiet nights, home-cooked meals, maybe some weekend projects. The house next door was identical. An old ranch-style unit with worn siding, and a sagging porch. It was the only other house on the street with its lights off every night. No kids, no laughter, just silence. My neighbor was a man named Mr. Dunn, mid-60s, thin, always in dark clothing. I only saw him twice during my first month. The first time was when I was watering my front yard. He stepped onto his porch, stared at me for a solid minute, then turned and went back inside. No wave, no nod, just surveillance. The second time was when Max ran into his yard chasing a squirrel. I followed, leash in hand. Dunn appeared on his back steps and said, "Keep the dog out of my yard." "Sorry," I said quickly, pulling Max back. "Won't happen again." He stared at me, his eyes sunken, voice flat. "Animals go missing here." I didn't reply. We left. But after that, I kept Max close. One rainy evening, my power went out. I lit candles and sat near the window, scrolling through my phone. That's when I saw it. A light in Mr. Dunn's basement. Not just a flicker, a full, bright floodlight. But his house was dark otherwise. No lights upstairs. No car in the driveway. Then the light shut off. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A notification from my home security cam. Motion detected in my backyard. I opened the feed. Nothing there. I turned on the porch light, grabbed Max's leash, and peeked outside. Wet grass. Empty patio. But Max was growling, low and steady. From that night on, I started noticing things. Dunn's blinds were always shut, but sometimes they'd be open for a minute, just long enough for me to see him, standing there, staring across at me. One day, a small envelope showed up at my front door. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed the entrance to a basement. Not mine, but his. A note on the back. "They can't hear you from there." I told myself it was a prank. Maybe some messed up neighborhood game. But I couldn't let it go. I drove to the local building department and pulled records on both houses. That's when I noticed something strange. My house and Dunn's were built the same year. 1974, same blueprint, same structure. But only my house had a permitted basement door listed. His basement had no door on record, no access. I came home that evening and stared at his place. It was getting dark. Rain was coming again. I watched as his porch light flickered once, then died. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., Max started barking. Loud, uncontrollable. He was pacing at the back door. I looked outside. There were footprints in the mud, bare feet, leading from Dunn's yard to my window, but no prints going back. I checked all the locks, stayed awake until dawn. The next day, I knocked on Dunn's door. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Then I heard it, a faint banging, like fists on wood. Dull, rhythmic, coming from the ground below me. I ran back to my yard and tried to peek through his basement windows, but they were blacked out. I knew it was insane, but I couldn't shake the idea that someone was trapped down there. So I made a decision. At midnight, I snuck into his backyard. Max stayed behind, whining. The basement window on the side had a rusty grate over it. I slid it open carefully. Behind it, I saw a staircase, and at the bottom, a door. The handle had scratch marks around it, deep grooves, like someone had tried clawing their way out. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight, and dropped inside. The air was heavy, rotten, the kind of damp that sticks to your skin. I walked down slowly, one step at a time, heart pounding. The door at the bottom wasn't locked. I opened it. The basement was large, too large, far deeper than it should have been. Rows of filing cabinets, old furniture, stacks of newspaper, a workbench with chains. Chains. I nearly turned around and ran until I heard it again, the banging. I followed it toward the back wall. There, behind a stack of shelves, was another door. This one metal, bolted shut. I leaned in, and from the other side, I heard a voice. Please. Faint. Raspy. Desperate. I'm still here. I didn't know what to do. I stepped back, shaking. Then the lights turned on. A voice behind me said, "You shouldn't be here." I turned. Mr. Dunn stood at the top of the stairs, a flashlight in one hand, a kitchen knife in the other. "Who's in there?" I asked, backing away. "No one," he said. "Not anymore." He stepped down. I turned and bolted back toward the open window I'd come in through. He shouted, feet stomping behind me. I scrambled up and out, cutting my arm on the frame. I didn't look back. I ran into my house, locked every door, called the police. They arrived 10 minutes later. But Dunn's house was empty. Basement windows shut. No scratches. No second door. Nothing. The police humored me, but found no signs of illegal activity. Dunn was gone. No forwarding address. No record. 2 days later, Max disappeared. I found his leash at the back door. The door was still locked from the inside. The next morning, I received another envelope. Inside, another Polaroid. Max sitting in a dark room. Behind him, that same scratched basement door. Written on the back, "He didn't make noise."